We are live.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Samruddhi Prabhudesai, and I'm pursuing Masters in Mental Health Counseling.
Good evening, everyone. Myself, Ishita, and I'm pursuing MSc in Clinical Psychology.
So we are going to talk about mental health. We started this series. We already are done with a live, which we did about a week ago, with a psychotherapist, Ms. Asira Chirmule. And our topic last time was building a better self-concept via reparenting. The topic that we've chosen for today is mental health and the importance of maintaining it.
Right.
Ishita, would you like to tell us why we chose this topic?
Yeah, definitely. There were many factors why we chose the topic, but the main reason was one, to spread awareness. Second, during this lockdown, a lot of mental distress has come into being. We ourselves are facing it. Also, there were a lot of myths going around, so we wanted to address that too. And also, along with it, we got an amazing response on our last talk. So we thought, how about we just start and maybe also continue as a series. So Sam, why would you like to address as to why we chose this, and is this going to be our first video, or are we going to have multiple videos coming up?
Okay, so I think as Ishita already said that we got an overwhelming response in our last live. Thank you very much. Um, and I think after that, a friend of mine basically continued to encourage me and rather be like, you've got to do something about this. You've got to do something about this. You're on to something. And a lot of people were saying that when is your next video coming up, and we are in anticipation. And one fine day, I think I just decided to pick up the phone, call Ishita, and be like, "Bhai, iska kuch to bhi karna padega. We have to continue this. Let's make this into a series." And we've come up with a bunch of good topics, but we decided to start with the most basic one, where we try and understand what mental health is to begin with, I think.
Right.
And no, this is not going to be our last video. We are going to have more videos where we'll be collaborating with neurologists, psychiatrists, psychologists, and as many people as we can rope in. So thank you. Stay tuned for the future. Thank you for joining in today. And thank you again for the response that we had last time. I think let's begin with our talk today.
Yeah.
First, we'll just understand an overview of what we are going to cover in today's talk.
Right.
Ishita, could you please tell us?
Yes. So we'll be looking at what is exactly mental health, what are the positive impacts of having a mental health. Then we will be addressing the myths, the main reason why we began with this topic, the importance of accepting and admitting one's emotions. We'll also be giving categories of unhealthy and healthy emotions. Alongside, we will be addressing the want of whether a person wants to cope or not with the emotions that they're dealing right now, and how to cope with an unhealthy mental state. In this, we will be giving some certain techniques, and secondly, we will be addressing the elephant in the room. That is, how is this mental? There is so much of mental distress going around, and how is lockdown contributing to the mental distress? So let's dive into the topic right now, and let's understand what is mental health. Sam, would you lead on?
Definitely. Before that, Ishita, I think need to adjust your mic just a bit. Your voice is not
Sorry.
very clear. That's okay. Okay, so understanding mental health, right? So, mental health is how an individual's mental state is. It includes an individual's emotional, psychological, as well as social well being. An individual's mental health affects how they feel, how they think, and how they act. And I think because of that, it also affects how an individual's daily life will go, how they are able to maintain or not maintain relationships with the people around them, and also their personal health. So it's not just your mental health, but your mental health affects how your physical health will also be. And mental health is something that I think needs to be given importance through all stages of life, your childhood, your adolescence, and definitely all throughout adulthood. There are various challenges that come up in various stages of our lives, which can cause mental distress. and it needs to be addressed and given importance.
Right.
Let's
So,
look at some definitions that were given by the World Health Organization, WHO.
yes. Before that, I would like to also, you know, tell that it's very important to focus on your mental distress, and it's important in every phase of our life, from children to adolescence to old age. All of them go through it, and it's no one is different. And we need to address the mental distress in every phase of our life. Kids also have neurodevelopmental issues where they are differently able. The causes of the distress in children and other phases of life may vary, but the distress is still there. Now, I'll be telling you what WHO says about mental health. It talks about the ability the one carries to fight the normal life stresses, the work productivity an individual can show, and how an individual can contribute to the community. This encompasses an acute mental health of an individual. Now, there are varied factors that builds an individual's mental health. Those are social factors, biological factors, financial factors, lifestyle choices that we make. And also, the very thing that needs to be focused on is that mental illness or disorder does not describe an individual. It is not the whole individual. The wholeness of a mental health is also focusing on the well-being the other aspects of your life may carry. So while you're dealing with the distress, anchor onto the good parts so you can, ease out and make the distress, work towards your distress.
Right.
Now, we will be looking at the person's health, what a positive mental health is. So, Sam, would you like to tell us some characteristics?
Definitely. So, an individual with positive mental health will have a lot of characteristics. We are looking at a few of them. I think the
Right.
first one is a sense of contentment. Contentment means being happy and satisfied with where you are in life, with who you are, and whatever it is that you're doing and everything that you've achieved in life. The second would be the ability to deal with stress and change. Stress and change are both inevitable. I think in every phase of life, for whatever reason, stress and change are always going to be, like you are friends, they're going to be right there with us. However, I think what distinguishes each individual is their ability to overcome the stress and the change, or their
Right.
ability to go through it and deal with it. So, an individual with a positive mental health will find more solutions rather than focusing on what the stressor is or what the change is. Um, so, I think that's very important.
Right.
And an individual with positive mental health will also be able to maintain a balance between their work, the extracurricular activities that one might choose to get into, hobbies that an individual might carry, as well as be able to maintain relationships with the people around them in a positive and healthy fashion.
Right.
As they say that all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So an individual needs to indulge themselves in things that are joyous also. And I think, lastly, but very importantly, an individual with good and positive mental health will have self confidence and high self esteem.
Right. Having said that, I will be focusing right now on common mental health disorders. We saw the characteristics, but there can be some distress which can lead to, severe illness or diagnosis of disorder. The common ones that I'll be covering are anxiety and mood disorders, just so that we don't get too technical into it and everyone can relate.
Yeah.
So, anxiety disorder actually is an individual who faces severe fear towards a certain object or situation, and if the person is exposed to that fear for a prolonged period of time, can be susceptible to PTSD, that is post traumatic stress disorder, or phobias. Sam here, I guess, would want to speak something about or on phobia. Would you like to share something with us?
Sure. Reptiles are very anxiety inducing for me. Thankfully, various kinds of reptiles, snakes, and everything. I do not need to, I don't have need to have an interaction with them. However, lizards really give me the jeepers creepers. I cannot be in a room where there is a lizard. I will start palpitating. I will start sweating. There's something very weird that happens inside of me, and like a child, I will run away. Uh, Without adult, I mean, unless I have adult supervision, someone who's not afraid of them. So yes, for me, it's reptiles. Just can't do with them.
Okay, thank you for sharing your mental distress with us here. Now, moving on to mood disorder. Mood disorder is characterized by switches between mania and depression. And mania is characterized by high energy, whereas depression is completely opposite. It's characterized by feeling of sadness, loss of interest in one's activity, lack of motivation, not wanting to do anything, feeling of helplessness. All these characterize depression. But very important, the timeline. The timeline is very important for someone to be diagnosed with a mood disorder, that is 2 weeks or more.
Yeah.
If an individual meets the time criteria and the symptoms mentioned by the DSM, that is Diagnostic Statistical Manual, then only a person will be diagnosed. Otherwise, if the person doesn't meet, of course, they won't be diagnosed with it. Now, let's move on to understanding what is positive mental health and how to maintain it. Sam, would you please help us here?
Definitely. Before that, I would like to let our viewers know that, like last time, this is also an interactive session. So, if you have any questions, any queries, please feel free to drop them in the comments, and we'll definitely address your queries and answer your questions.
Also, before that, since the comment thing, I don't think people can post the comment until they're the member of the group. We are very sorry, we did not know this. So we figured out recently. If you want to drop a comment, please try be the member of the group, and you can then drop your comments. Or else, when the live is over, you can leave your queries under the comments, and we'll answer it. But it will be better if you join in right now.
Definitely. All right. So I think having cleared up those things, let's directly move on to what is positive health, positive mental health, and why it's important. So positive mental health is basically an amalgamation of positive emotions as well as good functioning in a social and individual setting. um, an individual with positive mental health will have, will be able to lead life with higher, higher resilience. Resilience
Right.
means, as we said, that stress and change are inevitable. They're going to always be part of our lives. Resilience, good resilience means that we'll be able to get through those situations in a proper fashion, in a healthy fashion. An individual with positive mental health will also be more open minded, and they will be open to try new things. So I think because we are social beings, it's very essential to try new things. Always, it's good to have a safe space, a comfort zone, but it's very essential to step out of our comfort zone sometimes as well. And if we have some mental illness, or if we do not have a positive mental health for that matter, it'll be very difficult for us to venture into areas that we are not comfortable with. And I think very crucial, an individual with positive mental health will be less prone to depression and chronic diseases.
Yeah, on the chronic disease, I would like to elaborate. Uh, the reason why we focused on mental health, how positive mental health is affected by physical fitness, is because we thought physical fitness is something people can do in this lockdown. In a sense, they can move around the house. They can actually YouTube, on YouTube बहुत सारी free videos available हैं, तो हम वो भी कर सकते हैं. So since that was there, we thought let's tell our audience the impact of physical fitness. It gives a sharp memory. It also helps with a high self-esteem, a mind space change. We might just be in a mind space where we are not able to come across some positive solutions or see the situation in a positive manner. Then clearer thoughts and better sleep. Sleep is very important because if we don't get adequate sleep, it can also worsen our stress that we are already facing. I remember on the resilience part, as physical fitness also helps with resilience. When I was doing my internship with kids who are differently abled, it was very important for me to be at my best, and physical fitness really helped me with it. It also helped me be more pro-social, as in my internship, even if I was facing some problems, I was able to be there for my loved ones. At start, definitely it was difficult, but I eventually, you know, got a hang of it. So now let's move on to the myths that we wanted to address. Samruddhi, would you like to say?
Definitely. So, I think everybody in our field is tired of listening to certain stigmas, certain misunderstandings that people have. We've come up with some of them, since, of course, we won't be able to cover all of them. I think let's begin with when people say that an individual, if they seek help for their mental illness, they will be isolated from the society, which might lead to worsening of their symptoms. The thing about this is, it's not really incorrect. It's true, especially being in an Indian society. But having said that, what I would definitely like to address is that seeking help for an individual's mental health is very important, because it's just like having a broken arm. If you do not give it care, if you do not give it attention, it's going to worsen. The scenario is going to worsen, and it will just continue to hamper you. So I think if you know someone who is going through mental distress, please help them seek help also. It's not just
Right.
about realizing that we need mental health help, but it's also about encouraging the people around us to be able to understand the gravity of the situation, and seek a therapist or a psychiatrist or whoever they're comfortable with. And I think the symptoms definitely don't worsen, that is for sure. And what you will be doing when you seek help is, you will not only be empowering yourself, but you will be breaking stigmas. And you will be able to then definitely tell people that mental health is something that does need attention.
Correct, correct. Breaking stigma might not also be the goal for you, and that's completely fine.
Right.
But it's very empowering as a process, and once you see the results. So, results are worth the process, I think.
True.
Now, moving on to next myth is psychiatric medications are bad. Uh, but the fact remains that they ease out your process. They help the person in distress to address their distress in a better manner. Definitely, they're not the happy pill. They're not that you pop something and your mental distress will just go away. You need to combine it with therapy as well. The work needs to be done from your front too. So, medication along with therapy is the best recommended method for addressing your mental distress. Now, moving on to the next myth, Sam.
Personality traits and character flaws cause mental illness, and an individual can just snap out of it. So, a lot of times we say, अरे यार इसको सुना ये कैसी बातें करता है, ये तो definitely पागल है, कुछ तो भी there's some लोचा with their brain and they need help. That's not true. Personality traits and character flaws do not cause mental health. There are a lot of crucial factors that do, however, biological factors, which means your genes, your brain chemistry, an individual who might have incurred some physical injury or something like that. A life experiences that an individual goes through, trauma, as
Right.
I think Shudha mentioned, PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, uh, for individuals who may have a history of abuse.
Hmm.
And I think individuals who who potentially have a family history of mental illnesses. These are some causes. These are some things that actually cause, mental illness. जैसे अपन बोलते हैं कि यार डायबिटीज तो उसके खानदान में है, इसको भी हो सकता है. मेंटल इलनेस भी खानदान में चल सकता है. इट कैन
Right.
डेफिनेटली हैव अ फैमिली हिस्ट्री. And no, people cannot just snap out of it. I think the effect is similar to when we lose a loved one. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of love and support from people around us, it takes a lot of personal willingness, a lot of acceptance. All those processes are same to deal with a mental illness also. You cannot unfortunately snap out of it.
Very rightly said. Thank you. The next myth that I'll be addressing here is physical health problems are worse than mental health. Very honestly, the the pain can be on the same level or not depending on the diagnosis, but the pain still exists for both the illnesses, let it be mental or physical. Sometimes physical pain, yes, I understand the dilemma that you can see physical illness but cannot see mental illness, though the fact does not change that mental illness is as painful or maybe even 10 times more painful than the physical illness. And we need to address it. The effect that the person goes through is very real and it's very painful. I mean, changing a behavioral pattern is as painful as for us. So, someone who is diagnosed with an illness can literally be 10 times more painful than we can imagine. Also, Sam, I see one question here. Before we move on, I would like to address it.
Yeah.
Uh, and please give in your tips too. How to identify if someone is just pretending to be normal but has something wrong with it?
I think the way to address this is there will be signs. I think one just needs to pay really fine attention to the individual in question, because
Right.
so genuine happiness or genuine normalcy is different from when one is trying to portray it. When I think, as the question is, if there is something underlying inside that is probably causing troubles for that individual, it you need to pay a little more attention, as in more fine attention to how they are when they are behaving in a certain fashion. But it's different when you are genuinely happy and when you're just feigning happiness. And honestly, if you believe that you can't really figure out what's going on, there are always ways. I think you can always have a psychometric test done. Don't get scared by the name. It's just like a normal test, like if one goes to a career counselor for that matter.
Right.
It'll definitely, and some basic blood tests, they will definitely help you know for sure whether the individual in question is genuinely happy or they're just feigning it.
Right. A blood test, of course, why Samruti mentioned blood test is because there are a lot of hormonal changes that occurs in the body through the
Yeah.
chemical release of hormone. We will not get into the technicality, and very honestly, we are not equipped to get into the technicality right now. But definitely, there will be behavioral gaps that you can see through your eyes. And if you're very close to the person and you pay fine attention to their behaviors and how they perceive their environment, you can figure out. You will be able to figure out rather. And also, maybe, talking to them in, just taking them to a nice place where they like. Talking to
Yeah.
them, a heart to heart conversation can also make them open. If they trust you enough, they will. So now let's move on to another question. I feel there's a lot of acceptance that one needs to change their behavior. So what do you have to say on it? Why is it important to accept and admit one's own emotion?
Right. Before I think I go to why it's important to admit one's emotions, I would like to address the possible reasons why one may not want to admit their emotions. There can be a lot of personal reasons or personal factors which definitely will be diagnosed if and only the individual seeks help. But I think on a upper level, stigmas are a big reason that an individual may not want to accept their emotions. I think, to begin
Right.
with, being in an Indian society, unfortunately, men are told not to feel. Men are told that they'll be weak if they cry. Men are told that they're not supposed to show weakness. They're always supposed to be the pillar of the family. They're supposed to
Yeah.
exude this strength. And honestly, it's not true. That just, it restricts a man from talking about his emotions, because he knows that he can't talk about it to anybody. And I think it's like a pressure cooker. If you do not release the steam out, it will blow. So when an individual is known, when an individual knows, or when they are told that you can't speak about this certain emotion with someone, they would rather not accept it within themselves also. Because फिर खुद के दिमाग को तकलीफ क्यों बढ़ानी है, खुद के दिमाग की तकलीफ? मैं किसी से बात
Right.
तो कर नहीं सकता हूँ. right? So might as well I also deny what I'm feeling. Similarly, women are stigmatized to be over dramatic, over emotional. हर में हमेशा रोती रहती है. The thing is, first of all, tears, I think, are the most, they're a biological way of your mind cleaning everything that's negative. Like when an individual sweats when they're exercising, tears are the mind's way of doing the same thing for your negativity. Also, women are biologically engineered to be more emotional than men, I think. So, and because of which, again, similar, when a woman is told that, you're always over dramatic, you think too much, she would think twice before, opening up to someone about what she's feeling.
Right.
And again, as an effect, may not even want to accept to herself what she's feeling. So, these are some of the reasons, I think. Now, coming to the importance, when an individual does not accept their feelings, not only are they hampering their mental well being, but they are also hampering the relationships with people. They're not able to maintain a healthy relationship with people. The reason being, Ishita, would you like to tell the reason?
Yeah, so the reason why it's very hampering for them to accept and admit is because they're scared. There is a fear regarding, and they're also fearing their own emotions. Sometimes we just don't understand what we are going through. So maybe also, and being in the negative spiral of emotion, it really hampers us at some point too. So maybe talking to someone who can have a neutral aspect and a perspective to your emotion can really help. And slowly, maybe also talking to yourself. Mirror practice really helps. So
Right.
talking to yourself can also help in understanding what the emotion is. Sometimes we fear because we don't understand it. So once we gain the understanding of it, we will be able to admit and accept it.
Right.
Am I right?
Yeah, you're very right. Also, I guess when there are suppressed emotions inside us, we end up projecting them on people around us because those emotions aren't really going anywhere. They're definitely there
Right.
in our mind still. They might come off as anger when we are speaking with somebody, or any other negative emotion, and that projection can create a disbalance.
Right, correct. Projection is very, very scary because it also takes the other person aback.
Yeah.
uh, they just don't understand that what is it that they are exactly doing wrong and they feel responsible for it. But yeah, that being said, let's go and understand what are unhealthy and healthy emotions. Sam will be leading us. I'll just be sharing my screen, so just have to, I just need 2 seconds for it. Uh,
Okay, so while she's doing that, healthy and unhealthy emotional consequences come, of course, through a situation. They depend on our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. I think, as you're able to see, first of all, we are very sorry for the arrows. We are both technologically challenged. We sincerely apologize. What these arrows indicate, unfortunately, are that thoughts dictate your feelings, feelings dictate your behavior, and behavior dictate your thoughts. But that is untrue. This is an interdependent model. An interdependent model means that your thoughts can hamper your feelings can hamper your behavior can in turn hamper your behavior can also hamper your thoughts. So I think this is how an interdependent model functions. Ishita
right.
actually gave a very brilliant example yesterday. Ishita, would you like to please tell us an example of how
Okay.
this interdependent model functions?
Right. So supposedly you had a fight with your, mother or a parent, anyone, at home, and now you really feel angry. You are, and because of anger, now you're trying to behave aloof.
Yeah.
Also, maybe if you're behaving aloof, you might, your feelings can get worse. Either talk about it, or either getting to talking too much or being too aloof can actually hamper your feelings, or your feelings of anger and guilt and frustration can hamper your behavior. So it's, as we said, it's interdependent, and because of that, thoughts can actually hamper. Thoughts
Yeah.
can turn into negative more so, and negative thoughts can make more of a negative impact on behavior and feelings. So that is how it goes, and that's why it is called interdependent model.
Very true. Thank you for that example. I think moving on, let's look at certain healthy and unhealthy emotional consequences to a certain situation. The one to your left, annoyance. Annoyance is a healthy emotional consequence. Yes, I said it correctly. Annoyance is a healthy emotional consequence, but the unhealthy emotional consequence is anger. There is absolutely nothing wrong with feeling annoyed about a certain situation. I think pandemic is a very good example in this case. We were all annoyed when it began. I think we are still annoyed, but I think when it goes to a point where we would want to rebel or fight with someone, or there's just a lot of distress in the mind, I think that is where we are leaning towards anger, right? So
Correct.
annoyance is, as I said, a healthy emotional consequence to the pandemic that we are in right now. Anger, however, is unhealthy. I think the second one we'll look at is sadness and depression. Sadness, I think, again, about the pandemic, we are all sad that we are in this state where, we are unable to go out except for, I don't know, essentials. We have not met friends in a long time. A lot of families are, away from each other. There's just too much happening. So, we are feeling bad about it. Feeling bad is where one is sad. But depression, as Ishita explained very beautifully to us earlier, is very, very deep. Depression is a word which is, thrown around very rightly. यार मुझे आज बहुत depressed लग रहा है यार मुझे से, I think I'm in depression. Please, I
Correct.
think stop. That's not true. Stop saying that, because depression is this, you know, you just don't want to get out of your bed. Sadness is to a level where you cannot control it. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to get done with your basic chores in your day. And I think this feeling, this horrible feeling, has to go on for at least 2 weeks or more for it to be classified as depression. So, again, sadness is a healthy emotional consequence to a situation, and depression is an unhealthy emotional consequence to a situation. I think the last one that we will look at is concern and anxiety. Again, regarding the pandemic, now as a student, I'm concerned. I have a lot of questions about how my future is going to be, how my college is going to go, am I going to have to start an online course? How am I going to get my materials? How will the online course be? When can I actually go to my college campus and be able to study? So these are questions which fall under concern, which is a healthy emotional consequence to a situation. Anxiety is when an individual has a lot of palpitations, they start sweating, all sorts of negative things. They feel depressed, they really feel bogged down. It's as if there's some physical weight onto them. Anxiety is an amalgamation of a lot of unhealthy feelings, which is why it is an unhealthy emotional consequence to a situation.
Correct. As you rightly said, what I would like to share as my takeaway from this question particularly is, if you see a pattern throughout, you will see that the healthy emotions carry very functional aspect, as in they're very solution focused and solution oriented, whereas unhealthy ones lead to more of thinking of problem, in this negative spiral, keep on thinking of it, and that's exactly why uh, we are unable to see solutions, and that becomes more problem focused than solution oriented. So thank you so much for explaining it so well.
Right. Okay. Now, I think let's look at an individual wanting or not wanting to feel a certain emotion. Ishita.
Right. So I remember two weeks back. Yeah, I remember now. Before this talk, I was just so. I was like, okay, I'm very very tense. I don't know. I was just getting these creeps in my stomach, and I was telling
I
mom,
still am
I.
actually. I'm still very nervous about how I'm going.
So I was just telling mom, is it okay if I just sleep? I might just skip it. And so that way, that was my point when I was like, okay, this is me not wanting to cope with my emotion. But then I was like, okay, it's okay, you're feeling nervous, it's fine. People are going to watch you, but the positive thing is you're not watching people, so it's okay. That was somewhere I gave myself the strength, and I was like, it's okay even if I goof up. So that way, telling yourself, affirming yourself on the basis of your past experiences as well will help a lot. And also realize that if you're doing something new for the first time, or if you're in that emotional state for a longer period of time, you might not want to deal with it because it takes a lot of effort, and that is very understandable. Understanding emotion, wanting to change it, then seeing what impact it has, it's a long process, and I completely get it. But it's important because the emotion is not going to go anywhere, as Samruddhi said. It will just either be projected, displaced, or be denied. These are
Right.
the unhealthy defense mechanism that we'll be taking. So instead of that, what we can do is a defense mechanism that I read about is sublimation. So sublimation is where we, release our emotions through getting into some creative activity. So maybe you can write, express yourself. That can help to get things off your chest. And also know that if it's something prolonged and very heavy, you can always reach out. In this post, I have also put a comment where I have given helpline numbers. We have a post on our Instagram profile, Mind and Matter, which has helpline numbers, and I have checked them personally. I have called and I have realized that they work. So don't think that they do not work. They are given by Indian government, Maharashtra government, and by other NGOs that are working for mental health wellness, so you can always use them. Uh, but remember, the control is in your hand, and wanting to deal with it is very important, because even if you don't feel like it, the statement or the quote that I remember, that motivation and discipline and change doesn't come through thoughts, it comes through action. So always try and act. Always try. It's difficult, definitely, but try your best. You can do it. Yeah.
Thank you very much for explaining that so beautifully, Ishita. I think
Thank
now,
you.
having gone through all of these technicalities, let's come at the main problem. How does one cope with mental distress?
Right.
Ishita.
Yes. So, as I said, mental distress can be very hampering, and we do not want to deal with it, or we would, force to deal with it. And sometimes also, some clients we see come into therapy as they, even if they don't like it, just through a recommendation of someone, and it becomes very difficult with such clients. But at least for now, in this lockdown, the basic aspects that I can give you to anchor on that can help are journaling. You can maintain a diary where you can write your thoughts. Where Why I'm saying write your thoughts, even if you don't want to indulge into it and you might want to deny it. The reason they're not going anywhere is because you're not addressing them. So writing it and looking them after 2 or 3 days, look at them, you will see a pattern. We humans are really good at looking, identifying patterns. So you will be able to see patterns and tweak what is causing distress. Tweaking is because is causing distress, so there is something faulty. I won't say faulty, but there is something that you need to change about it that is
Right.
not functioning
Right.
in your aspect.
Something that needs
Uh,
to be addressed.
yeah. So also maybe call a friend. I call Samruddhi whenever I'm distressed. Even if she's sleeping, I was like, listen, you get up, listen, please. I need it. So even if you're in that negative spiral, because the reason why I'm saying call a friend, someone who can be neutral towards your emotions. You're attached to your emotions. The other person may not be. They can feel empathy for you, but they won't be attached as you are. So attachment can lead to a lot of spiraling into the attachment than actually solving problems. So they can give you an aspect, or maybe you are also thinking, something is we can have exaggerated thought as well. So to you know reduce that impact, talk to someone who has a neutral point. Moving on, we can move, exercise. That releases endorphins, good happy hormones, like everyone knows. It actually makes you feel empowered, because if you have exercised even when you did not feel like it, it's amazing, it's commendable. It can really make you feel resilient, as we said before. It can increase your higher self-esteem. The last but not the least, there are a lot of it, but we'll just cover four. is affirmation. Affirmation anchoring on your past experiences. So, like I said, if I am scared of this talk, I have already done a talk before and it went pretty well. People did like it. So, that was my anchoring point, and that is how I gained my strength. So, don't, if you feel that you're not a confident being, saying yourself that I'm confident and repeating it might not sound true to you and it might not have that impact. So affirm on the past achievements that you have had, and I'm sure everyone has some or the other. So now, Sam, would you like to take on?
Definitely. Also, Ishita, I think there's something. Okay, your network was a bit lagging. Just for a minute there. It's okay. It's okay.
I'm so
Don't
tired of it
feel
already.
distressed. It's fine. Okay, I think moving on, we'll finally address the elephant in the room, the effect of this lockdown on our mental illness or mental well-being. Um, there are
Right.
an Australian psychiatrist did a research after which she jotted down 5 emotions that every individual is going through during this period of lockdown. The first one being disbelief. We can't go out of the house. We are restricted. We are confined. What is happening? This cannot be true. The first emotion being disbelief. The second one is anger. I swear I'm going to rebel. I'm going to go meet my friends. I cannot stay inside my house. I'm going to throw something at the wall. Anger. The third one, okay, now I'm tired of being at home. I'm tired of not going out. I cannot lay on my bed anymore. My back is starting to hurt because I lay down too much. Sadness. The fourth were being सह लेंगे थोड़ा सा ठीक है अभी 2 महीने थे थोड़ा सा और हो जाएगा ठीक होना है and acceptance so being the fourth emotion and the final one being optimism. How about we accept that this is where we are? We know for sure that ये कभी ना कभी खत्म होने वाला है. This is not indefinite. Let's try and make this our new routine. Let's try and indulge into activities that probably we were not able to because of our work routines, and we will surely get out of this one day. That's optimism, the fifth emotion. So disbelief, anger, sadness, acceptance, and optimism. However, having said that, it's very important to know that it is not a linear equation. So it's not necessary that once you're done with disbelief, you'll go on to anger. Once you're done with anger, you'll go on to sadness. It's not like that. You may reach acceptance, but then there can be that time, that day, that moment where you probably go back to anger, or you might have reached optimism, or there still can be times when you go back to sadness. So it's not a linear equation. A lot of back and forth can and might happen, and also the time that each individual takes to reach each stage will also be different. So for example, I may be still in the phase of sadness, but the friends or the people that I'm speaking with may have reached the stage of optimism. I think the best we can do here is not compare ourselves to people who are doing better than us, and not judge people who are probably doing a little more worse than us. Let's be here and help each other out get through this. We are all in this together. I
Right.
think now let's
As
just look at very brief introductions of each emotion and definitely how to cope with each stage.
before that, I would like to share an example. When the lockdown for one was announced, I was pretty chill about it, and Samruddhi was like, "Okay, now what is this?" I guess
The very first
since
week,
I
huh?
was
The very first week.
the very first week, second week the tables turned, and I was the one who was like, "Okay, I guess now I'm losing my cool. We need to do something about it." But definitely, we did nothing. We followed the law and we stayed at our places because
Yes.
definitely otherwise
Please
Sunday
stay at your
padenge.
places unless you want to buy dhania or something essential.
Dhanya is not the only essential, Sam.
That's
Okay, let's move on. Disbelief, basically, we face disbelief because we have lost structure. Something that we were so familiar with has been taken away without a prior notice. We weren't ready for this. There was not a slow, small transition. It was one day and everything has come to a stop. came to a stop. So now, how do we really deal with this disbelief? First, since we lost structure, we need to create a new one. So try understanding what your routine is like. It can be different every single day, but there will be some consistent part. Build on that. Keep time blocks. So what I do is, if you want to, so for example, if you want to get up at in the morning at 8 o'clock, make sure every day you try getting up at 8 o'clock. Sleep as early as possible. Of course, get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. That's the minimum for a healthy, good sleep.
Yes.
And try then, to uh, take down things like that will actually help you look forward for the day. For example, you enjoy drinking tea, so 5 o'clock I'm going to drink tea with my parents, or by myself, whatever it is that you like, you can do. So something that will give you structure and tell and reduce unpredictability, because the situation is very unpredictable. So including predictability in your routine will also help. Moving on to anger. Now, why we feel anger? One, everyone around is going through a lot of loss of their loved one, loss of their routine, loss of familiarity, a lot of losses. And that can be very hampering. And I am so sorry for those who are actually facing loss of a loved one. But we will come through this strong. It is difficult, I'm not denying it, but it is something that we need to learn from, and we will come out of it stronger. And I'm so thankful for all the healthcare workers who are really putting up with this situation and helping. Thank you so much for, because of you all, we can stay at home.
Definitely.
And now, how we can overcome our anger is first accept there is anger. That way, the first acceptance towards anger can make you move towards annoyance. That is a healthy emotion, as Samruti said. So you will be annoyed by it, but you will be solution oriented. Remember, the pattern is solution orientation of healthy emotions.
Very
Now,
true.
reflect and reassess. Try to reflect and reassess on your as values. What do you value the most right now? And whether you want to carry it forward in your future. Try doing that, and that will help you accept and overcome anger slowly and gradually. Moving on to third stage, that is, it's not a stage, but a third emotion that one can feel is sadness. So you will realize that a lot of time you might just want to cry, and there's no reason for you, to actually cry. You might not see a reason for you to cry, but the loss of familiarity and routine is actually very distressful, and that is completely understood. So try to let it out either by expressing yourself, or if your body is expressing itself through tears, it's okay. It's just cleansing itself. So let it. Tear is not a sign of weakness. Please do not judge yourself. Uh, if you want to cry, cry it out. The reason why I'm saying don't judge yourself is everything starts from us first. If you stop judging yourself, you'll be able to understand the others' emotions as well, and you'll be more empathetic. Now, how to overcome this sadness is first notice that there are some emotions and turbulence in your mind space that you're facing. Second, describe them. Either describe it to yourself, mirror practice, as I said, talk to yourself. It's important.
Yeah.
Because when you talk it out loud, you will be able to hear what you're saying, and that makes a huge difference. Uh, Second, third is describe, and uh, then analyze. Analyze what you're feeling. Maybe also write those emotions, describe it in your diary, and analyze what you're going through. If it's too much, helpline. Use the helpline, use your friends, use your supportive system. It's very, very crucial. And then let go. Once you have analyzed, you know now what aspect to work on. Work on it and try to let go of the attachment. We can very well be attached to our negative emotions too, and
Right.
that is only because we have developed a comfort place in it. But it's important to also not develop comfort place. Accepting understanding is important, but developing a comfort place where you feel distress can be very hampering for a
Right.
bigger picture. Now, moving on to next emotion, that is acceptance and optimism. Samruddhi, will you take on?
Definitely. So when we finally reach acceptance, I think one truly does let go of anger. because if there is a lot of anger about the situation, about what is happening, about this lockdown, then it will be tough to reach acceptance, I think. Accepting that, at least for some amount of time, this is our new normal. What we can do is, build newer routines, and make this a very safe space, because it is important in a time like this. I think a time like this is not when one should venture out of their comfort zone. Rather, they should build a comfort zone. And the more predictability that one has about their own life, the more easier it is to go through the entire process. So once anger dissipates, will one be able to really achieve acceptance, and that's important. And I think the final stage is optimism. Optimism is, as we discussed earlier, that we know that this is not indefinite, this will end. And when your mind is optimistic, when your mind knows that, this is just a phase and it will go, your nervous system, physically, your nervous system starts to calm down. This entire, adrenaline, a lot of hormones, your endorphins, your dopamine, the instinct of fight or flight, it goes away. You start to settle in yourself, being in yourself. I
Yeah.
think that's really important. And the best way to achieve optimism is to try newer routines, to try and go back to a lot of activities that may have been lost. For instance, for me, I could not cook worth a penny. I really couldn't. Now, cooking has become my routine. Every night I know that I have to cook dinner, and I'm excited. I'm learning how to cook. There is no problem in my stomach as of now, so that's great. And I was able to revisit art. I think in the second week of lockdown, Ishita made a call and said, "Hey, do you want to do this little competition? We each have our art, and our moms will judge it." So it started off as that, and I think I'm still continuing. I'm still going back to my art, my coloring, and it's great. And I think another way of achieving optimism is by looking at the positive of this lockdown. As I said, for me, the positives are definitely starting this series, going back to my art, learning cooking. A lot of people who have gone back to their families, after a long while, their families have been able to reunite. The skies actually are clearer, the trees are greener. Yes,
I want to share my positive. My
yes,
positive, my violin sir will be very, very happy listening to this. I'm practicing, I'm consistent in my practice. He always had that complaint. So I'm consistent with it. And of course, the series. Definitely. I'm really looking forward to more talks. So yeah.
right. So I think, yes, as she said, so let's look at the positives that have been brought about by this lockdown, and we will be able to reach an optimistic state of mind. Having said that, I think we'll end the show talk for today.
Wait. We have one question, one more. How to overcome screen addiction?
How to
Uh,
overcome screen addiction. Nice. Ishita,
yeah.
would you like to address it?
Definitely, I have one. Okay, so you know the taste of salt when you taste it. So that's how I know how to deal with screen addiction because I've had one. So uh, time blocks again. Keep if your habit is to get up in the morning and check your phone, try to take 10 minutes for yourself. Just sit on the bed if you don't want to do anything. Try to just sit and maybe look blankly somewhere and try not to touch your phone. I'm not saying don't touch it for 1 hour because that'll be extreme, but for 5 minutes, if you can do that, then slowly, gradually increase the time and maybe include some activity. Maybe you can write a gratitude journal or just say out loud what are you very grateful about today, and either go help your parents in the morning whatever they're doing, or just indulge in chit chat, so that your want of going to your phone will be reduced. Keep yourself busy. Then slowly, if you use a lot, see what time frame do you use your phone a lot in. So for me, like, I indulge into series a lot during afternoon time. So maybe if you don't want that, you can either choose to sleep, get your sleep if it's not adequate enough. Indulge into an activity, maybe practice something that you have not been doing, or give yourself projects. giving yourself projects really help for you to indulge into it. Something that you're passionate about, because then only your focus and concentration will be there. Because screen addiction affects our focus and concentration, try giving yourself time also, time bound activities. So half an hour, I am going to focus on this activity and I'm not going to touch my phone. Keep your phone on silent and keep it upside down so that you don't have to, the blink of the light can also be a cue for you to check your
Yeah.
phone. So
You'll be less
try
tempted,
to,
basically. If the
yes,
device itself is away from you, you will be less tempted. Provided
yes.
you're
And
also, trying to engage yourself in some other activity.
yes, yes. Slowly also engaging your, if you don't want to engage yourself in the activity, maybe try just sitting and doing nothing, because our mind is very, very distracted very easily.
Yeah.
So try doing that. It's fun. But if you can't, it's okay. Keep yourself busy with different activities. That would be my answer. Yeah.
Perfect. I think you've summed all of it. Very well said.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I think we come to the end of our session. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Yeah.
And I think
Thank you,
we'll
sir.
see you in our next live.
Yeah. Very excited.
Definitely.
Stay safe, and take care of yourself.
Yes. Bye bye.
Bye bye.